Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone joining us from across Kenya and around the world. My name is Maria Grace Situma, and I'm honored to be your moderator for this inspiring session of the Journey Back to Eden series. It's a global dialogue where we explore what it truly means to return home, to purpose, culture, and community. Today, I'm proudly dressed in my Maasai attire, symbolizing not just heritage, but harmony. And it's a joy to host a creative visionary from the Taita Taveta County, a region rich in rhythm, resilience, and natural beauty. This session, titled "The Stage is a Classroom, Using Performing Arts to Teach Culture, Conservation, and Community," invites us to see how creativity can be a tool for both education and empowerment. Our focus today is on the Taita Taveta Creative Arts Initiative, lovely known as TTCAI, founded and led by Chao Mwangola, a visionary artist, educator, and community builder, whose work reminds us that art is not just for entertainment, it's a living language of identity, belonging, and hope. Through music, dance, drama, TTCAI turns the stage into a classroom where lessons of culture, conservation, and community comes alive. From preserving the melodies of our ancestors to inspiring environmental stewardship among the youth, their work demonstrates that heritage is not history, it's a heartbeat. Before we begin our conversation, a quick housekeeping notes. Please share your questions in the chat. We will be taking some towards the end of our discussion. Feel free to add your comments and reflection, but let's keep our engagement respectful and encouraging. This is a shared space for learning, inspiration, and celebration, so let's make it warm and inclusive. And before we close, I'll also share details on how you can be part of the Journey Back to Eden experience, whether through the 12-day full experience, the 7-day immersion, or a daily pass for signature moments like the Business Summit or the Global Cultural Expo. As we begin today's conversation, I invite all of us to reflect on a few questions. How can creative expression help us reclaim our stories? How does performance become a bridge between tradition and modernity, between art, advocacy, home, and diaspora? And what might the journey back to Eden look like when it's led by artists, dreamers, and changemakers like those at TTCAI? With those reflections in mind, it is my absolute pleasure to introduce our guest, Chao Mwangola. She is the Executive Director and Lead Permaculture Designer at the Taita Taveta Creative Initiative. Chao is a multidisciplinary artist, a singer, songwriter, scriptwriter, and creative permaculture designer. Her work bridges art, ecology, and empowerment, proving that performance can inspire both personal and planetary healing. Through TTCAI, she's mentoring youth to use creativity as a tool for storytelling, cultural preservation, and environmental consciousness. Chao, karibu sana. Welcome to the Journey Back to Eden webinar series. Please say hello to our online audience and briefly introduce yourself.
Thank you so much, Maria. Well, hello, Jambo, habari gani, or as they used to say, mambo. Mambo. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you're joining us from. It's evening on this end, so we are just thankful that you're here with us. Wherever you're joining us from, around the world, from the diaspora, it's such a joy to be here with all of you. And I also want to say thank you to Traverze Culture for having me here. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chao. Your journey already paints such a vivid picture of purpose, meeting passion. Let's unpack a little more. Every great initiative starts with a story. The Taita Taveta Creative Arts stands out as a beautiful example of creativity grounded in purpose. Could you take us back to where it all began? What inspired you to merge performing arts with agroecology and youth empowerment in Taita Taveta? Was there a defining moment when you realized that art could do more than entertain, that it could preserve culture and transform communities?
Okay, so I was just by breaking it up into this is the first segment, which is the story behind the story. So as you said, every great initiative starts with a story. Mine was very simple. I came back having lived in the US for about 11, 12 years. I came and said, I'm going to start a step team in the rural village, Taita Taveta County. I used to step when I was in uni in upstate New York. And so I said, this is a skill that I want to train the youth to do, you know? And so we began as a step team. And I had a large group of very talented youth. And then it just evolved into this collective of people who could not only just step, but they can sing, they can act, they can narrate, they can rap, they can do fine arts and crafts. So eventually I would even get people come in and, okay, I don't know how to step. I'm finding that a bit difficult, but I know how to act. I know how to sing. So it just became a collective. It evolved into a collective of multifaceted forms of art, but still telling our stories. And then eventually it became more than now performance. What inspired us to merge performing arts with agroecology and youth empowerment in Taita Taveta? That was your second question. So we would find ourselves performing in events like numerous times. We've been called by the KWS, which is the Kenya Wildlife Service, to perform for World Wildlife Day or World Rangers Day. And most times there's usually a theme. And I remember this particular theme that was we were tasked to perform for one of their major annual events, which I think was the World Wildlife Day. And the theme was connecting people and planet, exploring digital innovation in wildlife conservation. And to the youth in the rural village, that was quite a mouthful. And we have to transcribe it and also translate it and communicate it via arts, via performance arts. And I remember saying, oh gosh, connecting people and planet, exploring digital innovation, wildlife conservation, where do we even begin? And eventually we were able to put something together and mash it up, stepping, singing, dancing, narrating. We did all that in 10 minutes and they got the point. And people were laughing so hard. We left there and they've never forgotten. Ever since then, they keep calling us. But now it's reached a point where now we are constantly performing for World Environmental Day, World Desertification Day. We are in an arid, semi-arid area. So every time we're always trying to advocate for conservation of the land. How do we use the soil the right way? How do we enact measures that will keep our environment going despite the desertification and arid, semi-arid environment? And that's when now eventually we said we've been performing and telling people to do these things. We need to start practicing what we preach. And that's where we started now incorporating farming, agroecology, permaculture into our space. And now we merged the two. And those two work hand in hand because as practitioners of culture, as a group that is registered under the Ministry of Culture and Social Services, we are mandated actually to preserve, showcase, educate the next generation on indigenous knowledge. And when you look at indigenous knowledge, it's multifaceted. It's not just in how we dress. It's not just in how we sing or perform, preserving the traditional songs and dance, but it's also in our food, in our medicines, in our plants, in our fashion, you know, that the dyes come from the trees. So all that is, it's supposed to work together. Preservation of indigenous knowledge. So that farming comes in, it just flows naturally. So when you come to our site, you're getting indigenous knowledge from A to Z or from A to Z. I hope that answers the question. I think the third question was the defining moment. I think I did, yeah, the defining moments was when we did perform for this Kenya Wildlife Service event, and we were tasked to really communicate some difficult concepts in farming and preservation and conservation through arts. But now we not only just act it out, we also practice it. I hope that has answered your question.
Yeah, that's powerful. You just turning the energy into social action. You've often referred to the stage as a classroom. In your experience, what does performance, whether through music, dance, or theater, serve as a purpose tool to teach young people about culture, environment, stewardship, and community values?
So at TTCAI, for instance, we always say every rehearsal is a lesson and every performance becomes a classroom. Why am I saying that? Because every time we're performing something or being we're called to a place for the first time, for example, that always turns into a classroom. We're always learning and taking things away and learning from that experience, and then we're able to build it to the next one. So every rehearsal we're teaching, we're and educating them on the values of performance arts, but also they're learning new skills. Aside from that, but we also realize when we perform, we're also learning because the audience gives us, we can tell whether they're liking what we're doing or not. And so when we do like, or sometimes even a mistake or two can happen with one or two youth, and it's always a learning moment. They say, oh my God, I'll never do that again. I think I was nervous. So anytime we're performing, anytime we're practicing, every time we're engaging in anything we're doing in the arts, it's a learning opportunity. And with regards to environmental stewardship and community values, it's a powerful tool to teach young people because, again, you say the next generation, there's some values which are being lost as we are, from generation to generation. So we're also preserving those values that we had so that they don't get lost. And a compelling example is the time when I often like to say that through drama, for example, so through dance, the youth learn teamwork. You cannot be in a group dancing and one person just decides to do their own thing. This one does that. There's no synergy. There's no harmony. Clearly, that will just be it will be discombobulated. So when they have to work as a team, which is something they take some time to do, and that's another lesson that is very important. Whether they end up in a corporate setting, eventually, teamwork is one of the lessons they learn from the get-go through dance. When it comes to drama can teach you empathy. One example I give is backstage. There was a time one performer literally was trying to change into the next scene, and she was in a rush, and the wardrobe function, the top just went rah. And we're like, okay, now what do we do? And so the teammates had to think very fast. So you had to become innovative and think outside the box to mitigate that situation, because she's about to go back on stage in literally 30 seconds. And I was on the other end saying, oh, will she make it? And she did come out wearing something else. They had to think very quickly. So empathy, you have to empathize with your fellow teammates so that the show must go on. And then through song, we're able to rediscover language and heritage. Some of our ancient songs, we're still teaching these youth to sing them. They didn't know them. We are merging the old and even inventing new ones. So we're preserving heritage and language also through song. So we look at all the different 5 disciplines of the arts. We are still preserving and rediscovering all those elements of culture that is slowly eroding away. Yeah. Yes. Can you hear me? Hello?
I believe she went out. I think she'll be returning. It looks like her internet froze. While she's gone, Can you hear me? Miss Chow, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yep, I can hear you.
Oh,
I
okay.
think
I'm
Maria.
so sorry.
No,
Well,
it's okay. Her internet
sorry.
probably went out really quickly. But
All right.
while we're waiting for her, someone asked, "Do you ever take the kids internationally to perform?"
We have been invited for at least a couple of places, and we're still working on on that because there's visas and passports and all that. We're still working on it, but we have been invited actually to the United States. So, but we've done that. Can you hear me?
Okay. Okay, Maria's coming back. I'm not sure if we missed this, but did you give us a little background of where where you're from? And I know you've lived in the US as well. Did you tell us a little bit about that?
Can you hear me now?
I can
Yes,
I
we
can hear
can.
you.
Yes, I
Yes.
think I was answering that question where you said whether we performed internationally. We have been invited to a couple of places internationally, and we're hoping to go there next year. And the United States is one of them. So we've been working towards that.
That's great. And because you used to live in the States, did we go over that?
Yes, I did mention briefly in my introduction. When I used to step, I lived in the US for
Can you
over
go in
10
a
years.
little bit about Can you go in a little bit about that? I see Maria's back. But can you go in a little bit about how the stepping, because I found that really, really interesting.
Okay.
When you told me you did like stepping, which
Mm-hmm.
is derivative from the African American culture, and of course we essentially took it from our African ancestry and just
Yes.
cultivated. But tell me
Mhm.
what that meant to you, how you took that, and now you brought it to Kenya.
So I've always been a creative, like I said, all my life, but mostly singing, acting, and dance, African dance. So I went to the US. I was in a small, actually it was a community college where I started off of, and it had a step team. I didn't even know what step it was at the time. I was only 18, and I saw these people. So I just joined. I joined not even knowing what I'd joined. And then I saw people tapping their feet and legs, and I say, oh, this is interesting. And I realized I caught all the steps very quickly because I used to play percussion. I played the drums, marimba, the African xylophone. So rhythm is something that's, I think, comes naturally to me. So I was able to catch the steps very quickly. So I said, oh, this is nice. I like it. And I remember that group had people from the Caribbean. We had Haitians, I was the only Kenyan, and then African Americans. And this was actually my first also exposure to Black culture or African American culture. And so I remember learning so much, and I enjoyed it so much. We would get, invited to perform at different places within the state of New York. The different dress codes and stepping in heels. I have very fond memories, and the relationships I made from all those girls, the chants, I still remember them to this day. Yeah, so it's something I had just learned. And then when I transferred to a 4-year college, I did my, finished my undergrad. I also did step in Pennsylvania. So I never thought, 10 years later or 15 years later, I would bring that skill back to Africa. But here we are, I said, what can I give to my community back home, the rural village where I come from? And I said, well, stepping is something different, at least from where I come from. There's only one person who knew what stepping was. So when I said, I'm going to start a step team, he understood it. He said, this is what I've been watching. People have watched Stomp the Yard, and the other, sequels after that. And I said, I know what that is. So I can't wait. So he's one of our leaders actually, and he now can teach the rest of the youth how to step. So that was something that was unique also. So anytime we perform anywhere in the coastal, even in Nairobi, we always infuse stepping in our routines. We've done 30-minute musicals, we've done 1-hour shows, but we always make sure we incorporate stepping into our stories.
Miss Maria, I got to chime in one more time, and I'm gonna let y'all be. But since you were talking about, oh my God, this is horrible. Since you were talking about the stepping, I just wanted to really kind of go into that a little bit, and then I'm gonna turn it back over to y'all.
That's fine.
So incorporating the stepping, how is it when you're performing out and around Kenya? Do people think it's weird? Do people are they inquisitive? Like, what is the reaction of local Kenyans when they see this?
Okay. All right. So I'll give an example I love it. Okay. When we perform for the Kenya Wildlife Service, they have their rangers. Oh, we did Wild Rangers Days. The first time we did Wild Rangers Day, stepping borrows from military formations, right? You were in the military, right? And some of the chants. So they were laughing so hard because they thought we were doing military formations. But they're like, no, those formations are very different. We would do this and, and I'm like, that's an interesting military formation. I'm like, so that we always get very interesting reactions from people just laughing out loud to people saying, wow, that's interesting. That's different. And there's other youth or people who have been exposed to movies and medias. They know, oh, that's stepping, So we get mixed reactions. But from the older generation, it's usually very funny. They just look and say, okay, these people are trying to emulate the military, or they're trying to, in fact, the Rangers and or the soldiers, anytime we're around like the army or Rangers, they always think we're trying to, sometimes they think we're trying to make fun of them or make fun of their routines. But eventually, because our performance is usually very humorous as well, we'll make sure we leave people laughing. And so they always come and just say, wow, your military formations are off the chains.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, we've gotten good reception. Thank God.
I love that. I love
very
that.
Good.
And so with that being said, I'm soon stop. But a lot of people say that African Americans don't have culture. We don't have culture.
Ooh.
And for you to be able to take that portion of our culture and bring it to Kenya and own it, that speaks to the connective tissue. That speaks to the connective tissue that we often don't get to talk about. Or I'm going to keep it real. We don't get no acknowledgement for the culture that we actually cultivated. Now, while we have been able to pull from our African ancestry, because it all comes from here, we were able to cultivate it and make it something to where it penetrates back into Mama Africa. So thank you for taking that portion of our culture and making it your own and bringing it here to Kenya. And I can't wait to see it in real time. I'm gonna leave you ladies to it.
Thank you. Yeah, I wanted to add that also the potential now to do it here on the motherland where we all got our ideas from is that we can now bridge the two worlds. The two cultures can come together and create something even more unique. So we always try to infuse our Taita culture. I'm from the Taita community, which is Taita Taveta. The Taita and Taveta, those are two different languages. So we always can you imagine we're stepping and we're chanting in Taita and Taveta. So it's a beautiful fusion.
Oh, I love that. And by the way, for those who are viewing, my name is 𝐓𝐚𝐲, which is a Taita name. And as you all know, it was given to me about 14 years ago, but it is Taita, and it means the future or tomorrow. So I have a Taita name, and I always say the Taita people are some of the most attractive people in Kenya.
And you got one of those names that are even been sung. One of the most popular Taita song is called Mpenzi wa Kesho, which means my beloved wa Kesho.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
It's a mantra. It's like an anthem. You have been, yeah, there's a song about you.
Oh, okay. Back to you, Miss Maria.
Okay, that was a powerful conversation. So, Chao, you've shown us how art teaches. Now, let's explore how it bridges. The Taita Taveta Creative Arts Initiative has celebrated incredible milestones, from captivating audiences at the National Kenya Music and Cultural Festival to performing during the Wildlife Days events. How have these platforms shaped your confidence and vision of young artists, and what do they reveal about the power of local creativity to inspire change on national and even global stages?
Okay, so for those of you who are joining us from the diaspora, let me start by saying this event called the Kenya Music and Cultural Festival, it's like it's equivalent to going to the top, the pinnacle in terms of performance arts. It's a very, very competitive event that brings about all the counties of Kenya. And it has a booklet. Like, for you to enter your event, you literally have to read an entire book. It has thousands and thousands of entries, from singing choral set pieces to folk songs to rapping to, there's everything. And it's usually a 10-day affair. And to get any award from that festival is like achieving, it's like equivalent to the US, I guess I would say, the Golden Awards or the MTV Awards. I don't know. BET Awards. It's like that. So it's very competitive. So when these youth participate in such events and they're able to win, we come from one of those counties. I always make fun sometimes. It's like, for those who are familiar with biblical stories, Bethlehem, Ephrata, what good can come out of there? So we have had, it's not a county that has too many people to begin with. Taitas are only 1% of Kenya's population. So when people come from such an environment and they're able to get a national award, it's a big deal. It's a huge deal. So, and they've won numerous times on this event. So when our youth perform, for instance, like I said, in the Kenya Music and Cultural Festival, they realize that their stories not only belong to that county or to their community, now they belong on a national stage, they belong on global stages. Because what happens when you win the National Kenya Music and Cultural Festival, you end up going to the regionals, which is now East Africa. And then when you win East Africa, you go international, Europe, or wherever, whatever they're going to be held at that particular year. So it opens you up not just to a national stage, but to a global audience as well. So it also helps them, it keeps them grounded. They see, okay, there's hope. The arts can actually take me somewhere. Some of them had never even been out of the little town. So these arts took them to Nairobi, to Mombasa, to other, towns and cities that they'd never been to. So it offers exposure and more learning opportunities. We get to see what other people are doing, and the standards are usually very high. So you see other people and you say, oh my, we need to pull up our socks. Did you see what they did? Did you see what Vihiga County did? Did you see what 𝐂𝐫𝐞𝐿, other counties were doing? So it's always another learning experience. So they always come back changed. And it pushes them to even work harder and go that next level. So that's how I see the power of creativity to inspire change on national and even global stages. Because even when we are going out there, we're also showcasing our culture, telling our stories. And so we're able to also educate people out there on the national level or on the global audience. Yes. Maria, are you still with us?
There's a balance. You're honoring your past and also inspiring the future, which is very important.
Yes. So basically preserving our culture doesn't mean just staying in the past. it means
Yeah,
carrying it
I was
proudly
saying
into the
there's
future.
a balance between now honoring our past and the future, which is very,
Yes.
yeah, very important nature. The land, wildlife, and ecology of the Taita Taveta. Why is it so important to connect cultural expression with environmental stewardship, especially for the next generation?
Okay, so I'll tackle the first half, which is the importance of. Can you kindly repeat? Hello?
Your
The first half.
performances often,
Yes.
I can hear you. Yeah.
Okay.
Can you
So
hear
I was
me?
going to say, kindly repeat the first half of that question because I want to tackle that first.
Okay. So your performances often celebrate nature, the land, wildlife, and ecology of Taita Taveta. Why is it so important to connect cultural expressions with environmental stewardship, especially for the next generation?
Okay, so the way I look at it, culture and environment are twins. You know, you can't have one without the other. If one suffers, the other one will fade. And when you look at our predecessors, our ancestors, they were able to merge those two seamlessly, and the two work together. So our performances will celebrate land, wildlife, the inherited wisdom that came down from our previous generation, and then we teach the youth that caring for the soil is also caring for their story. So as a cultural organization that has been, like I said, initially I mentioned how we are under the Ministry of Culture, we're considered cultural practitioners, and culture is not just song, it's not just dress, it's not just acting, singing, dancing. It's how it's our food. Our food forests, it's our plants, it's our trees. There are trees that are indigenous to that particular area where we come from, Taita Taveta. It's our, we are actually also, as cultural practitioners, we are mandated to preserve that indigenous knowledge, right? I did say that earlier. And this knowledge is multifaceted. Yeah, it's in our language, it's in how we dress, it's in the songs we sing, it's in the drama or paintings and crafts. And then it's also in our food, our medicine. We had our herbs that are indigenous to that area. So those two are one, I see them as just connected. Can't have one without the other. And that's why we also chose to do organic indigenous farming via permaculture. That's where permaculture met performance arts. Performance met permaculture, and the two work hand in hand. So permaculture is a type of farming that's basically working with nature and not against it. And it's a very creative way of farming as well. That uses, it's like you're going back to how our ancestors did it. In layman's terms, just to keep it simple, we're going back to how our predecessors, our forefathers did it. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, I love that. The idea of protecting culture also means protecting the earth that sustains it. So many of King ways to reconnect with Kenya through culture, creativity, and impact. What message will you share with them about investing, not just financially, but artistically and emotionally in the next generation of creative change makers through initiatives like the Taita Taveta Creative Arts Initiative?
Okay, the last part, I think you were breaking up. I didn't hear you clearly. What was that last?
What
the last segment of your
would
question?
you share with them about?
Oh, you're breaking up.
Oh,
yeah.
I think my Wi-Fi is bad today. Can you hear me?
Okay, so I think the first half, I think you said in terms of what would I share to the diaspora that are seeking ways to reconnect, right?
With Kenya
through culture, creativity, and impact. Okay, so to our diaspora family, your return home isn't just physical, right? It can be artistic, creatively. It can be creative. It can be artistic. It can be emotional. It can be spiritual. So, through established organizations such as TTCAI, you can mentor a youth. You can even find residencies, long-term, short-term, or you can join creative retreats. You can simply share your story. Or if you want to learn our language, you can come and learn it, learn our culture, learn our ways. You can do it in many ways, because we want to talk about giving aid. We are talking about building a legacy. And so how I see that Africa's rebirth, it's not going to be written in rhythm alone. It's not going to be written in rhetoric, sorry. It's going to be written in rhythm. The arts can really impact people in ways that documents and, books, maybe other forms of communication might not impact. I'll give an example. Some of you, I'm a millennial, so if I say, welcome to Atlanta where the players play and the party don't stop till 8 in the morning. I wanted to go to Atlanta because of that song, a song. So I thought Atlanta, the party don't stop till 8 in the morning, but a song did that to me, So the arts can really communicate more and can even help people memorize more. There's I like how music also knows no language. You can learn Swahili songs, Taita songs, whatever culture you find yourself in when you come to Kenya, and that can also help you connect with people in a manner that is much even deeper than me talking to you right now. I hope that answers at least the first half of the question. And I think you say, what message would I share?
Yeah.
Oh, to the next generation, right? Of creative change makers.
Mm-hmm.
Through initiatives like yeah. So for the diaspora people, again, I say, please come and learn more. I mean, pop culture, hip hop, you name it, all the roots are right here in the motherland. So come and reconnect with where it's all started, and you'll be able to grow more as a creative. If you're a creative yourself, I'm telling you, anytime I went to another country and it grew my creativity. So can you imagine if you came to the mother where it all started, how much your creativity can grow when you learn a new culture, when you learn new forms of expression, when you learn where it all started and the language, and you can add richness to your art, whatever it is, whether it's drawing or singing, dancing or acting, at that next level, at that next layer. Come and immerse yourself. Come do a residency program. Come mentor a youth. Maybe you're in a stage where you're a teacher. You teach drama. You teach music. You have the opportunity to come and give in however way you would like to, whether it's through teaching for the summer or volunteering or just coming to learn. Either way, that's how I would also say the next generation can learn, because I think the next generation has the potential to take this to the next level that we, the millennials or Gen X haven't. Whatever we haven't done, the next generation has that opportunity to do. Yeah.
All right. So as we draw to a close, one thing stands out. That capital is not just measured in currency. It's also measured in creativity, connection, and community. From the diaspora investors we spoke to the last week during our last webinar, to now the creative change makers who we meet today, like yourself. We see that coming home happens not only through what we build, but through what we express. Art is the bridge that carries memory into the future. And so, Chao, as is tradition in our series, we end with one final question. What does the journey back to Eden mean to you? How do you interpret that return, whether it's to purpose, to community, to culture, or to self?
Okay. So for me personally, when I hear of journey back to Eden, and when I hear the word Eden, I don't think of a place that we lost. I'll think of it as of balance, of a balance that we are rediscovering. So to me, Eden means harmony. It's also the rhythm between people from two different parts of the world, wherever you're coming from, whether it's the UK, Canada, or US, it's rhythm, connection. It's also connecting people to the land, the motherland, right? And it's also spirit and that deep knowing that we belong. You belong here. This is where you can, it all started. And the earth belongs to us, right? So every time our youth, like for instance, plant a tree, every time they're dancing barefoot, our traditional dances, we dance barefoot. It's that connection, the soil, that the same soil they're stepping on that our ancestors stepped on, that's Eden. It's right there. Right? So it's not somewhere in the past. It's something we can build again through creativity and through courage and through community. So for TTCAI and for me personally, Journey Back to Eden is about returning to purpose. It's also about authenticity. It's about authenticity to yourself and to one another. It's also realizing that art can heal the land and the land can heal us back. So I think that's what all of us are really searching for. We want a place to call home. So whether you're in Taita Taveta, Toronto, Kingston, Jamaica, Atlanta, we're just trying to find home again, right? And the beautiful truth is, home is still waiting. Karibu nyumbani. Welcome back home. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Chao. So what we've had today is more than a story about art. It's about restoration, belonging, purpose. And the journey back to Eden reminds us that going back home isn't always physical. Sometimes it's a return to our values, our roots, and our shared responsibility to nurture the land and people that made us who we are. Whether you're in Taita, London, Nairobi, or New York, we are all part of this creative ecosystem that has the power to heal, inspire, and transform. Now we'd like to open the floor for a few questions from our audience. Wakesho, could you please help me with the question? For some reason, I can't see it on my end. There is one on the screen.
Yes, it's on the screen. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you guys hear me?
Sorry?
Can y'all hear me? Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Yes, we can.
Okay, yeah. So we have, you already answered the question for, do you ever take the kids internationally? I think someone was saying they also went to and graduated from the University upstate New York. Where is upstate to you? Albany, Syracuse, or Newburgh?
Oh, I was in the area, the Catskill region, a really tiny little town called Sullivan. It was Sullivan County in the Catskill region. A lot of Jewish people have settled there. Their summer homes are there. So yeah, I was in that region. I was about 2 hours up north from New York City.
2 hours from New York City. Okay.
I think the next biggest town was called Middletown. Middletown, New York was about an hour and a half, and then there was that little tiny town called Sullivan. Yeah.
Okay. And then someone asked, will you be performing at the JBE?
We hope so. We would love to.
If not this year, guys.
If not this year, next year.
There next year, for sure. For sure.
Yes.
Someone showed some love here.
Thank you. Asante sana.
Yes, we are here following keenly. I can't wait to bring my small children in January 2026.
Welcome. Karibu.
Yep, that was all of the questions and comments, guys.
All right.
Okay. So I think we need more of cultural conversation so that we can have more people asking, curious and all that. For me, I'm representing the Maasai culture, yet I don't come from the Maasai culture. Anyway, we will learn and live in different cultures, celebrate it, appreciate it. Yeah. So thank you,
Okay.
Chao, for the heartfelt reflections and for reminding us that the journey back home can be danced, sung, and performed into being. And to everyone who's joined us, thank you for spending this hour with us. And if you like to experience Eden for yourself, do not forget to book your Journey Back to Eden experience, a one-of-a-kind immersion blending real estate, wellness, medical tourism, business, and culture. So you can either choose the 12-day full immersion for complete transformation, that is the Nairobi experience and Mombasa. Then you can opt for the 7-day journey to immerse yourself in purpose and connection. It entails the Business Summit, Global Cultural Expo, and some of the wildlife safaris at Nairobi National Park. Or you can join us during the Daily Pass experience, that is either the Business Summit or the Global Cultural Expo. And we'll also have a New Year celebration. So every journey, whether 1 day or 12 days, is a step toward rediscovering who we are and where we belong. Until next time, may we keep learning, loving, and living in rhythm with our roots. Thank you for joining us, and we wish you a pleasant rest of your day. Asanteni. Thank you, Chao.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you, Traverse Culture. Like I said, you can connect with all this through Traverse Culture. Thank you so much for having us, and God bless you.
There's a question that has just popped on the screen. Okay. Are you sharing the actual origin from, I even don't know what that means. I think a British or African American with the incorporation of Taita Taveta environmental and agricultural practices. Are you familiar with the DUT upcoming in your area?
Yes, I'm familiar with the DUT that is coming up in our area. I've seen even the signs. I've not really branched. It's every time I'm going up country to my, to my home, I see the signs leading up to it. I understand they're still developing it. So I have a family member that is a professor, so she's very highly involved in that. What was the other question? Sorry.
Are you sharing the actual origin from British or African American with your incorporation of Taita Taveta environmental and agricultural practices?
Okay, so I'm trying to understand the question. What we are just using agroecology principles and permaculture principles to do indigenous farming. And how the way I understand it, permaculture was actually started by the indigenous Aboriginal people of Australia, which again, it's an indigenous method of farming. And also we're also going to incorporate whatever our African ancestors did to preserve, how they did the farming. I hope that answers the question, and just keeping it very organic, using organic methods. I hope that has answered the question.
I hope so too. Yeah, I think we've come to the end of our live session today. Thank you all for joining our session today. Asante.
Asante sana for having me. Thank you.